From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Tonight, APC holds its 11th NEC meeting in Abuja, fixes 100 million naira for purchase of presidential forms. Also indications the party may adopt indirect primary to pick candidates. Nigerian Air Force to unravel the cause of the Super Mushak trainer aircraft crash as Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Oladayo Amao pledges thorough investigation. Lagos state officials meet Christian school management's parents over the scandal involving the students who engaged in immoral acts during a trip to Dubai. The parties are to return to the state CID for further investigation tomorrow.
And in international news from London, the deadline for a second Russian ultimatum demanding the surrender of Ukrainian forces in Mariupol has passed, with troops seemingly ignoring the demands.
News tonight. National Bureau of Statistics says domestic and international air travel rose by 43.41% and 57.61% in 2021.
On sports news tonight, British rivals Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte promise fireworks ahead of Saturday's WBC heavyweight title fight at Wembley Stadium.
And from Abuja, in a bid to improve performance in the civil service and eliminate ghost workers, federal government to commence online performance assessment for civil servants from next year.
We begin with the business of politics, and one of the decisions will be taken in a matter of days is how the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress will emerge, although that was not officially announced today at the party's 11th National Executive Committee meeting in Abuja. There are speculations the party hierarchy may settle for an indirect primary election. The party also agreed that the presidential nomination and expression of interest form for the 2023 presidential election will cost 100 million naira, while that of the governorship will cost 50 million naira. The president, Muhammadu Buhari, who's leader of the party, and other political bigwigs also transmitted their powers to the National Working Committee of the party to make decisions for a period of 90 days. Our correspondent, Gloria Umezuke, has more.
It is the first official meeting of the APC National Executive Committee with the party's National Working Committee chaired by President Muhammadu Buhari after the 2022 National Convention. The party may have surpassed expectations by political watchers, and the president is undoubtedly pleased about this. However, he warns party members to present a united front in order to avoid the mistakes made by the PDP in 2015.
I must caution strongly against any tendency towards developing cliques, infighting within the party. So it is very important. And the National Working Committee is your job now. Keep the party together.
The nagging subject of insecurity is another concern the president vows to relentlessly pursue.
People are very forgetful. Our main problem, surprisingly to me, is the Northwest and North Central. People stealing each other's animals, killing each other, burning each other's villages. What for? We are going to be very tough.
Saddled with the critical task of aligning sentiments and compromises in the interest of the party, the national chairman of the APC, Alhaji Abdullahi Adamu, identifies the root cause of the party's challenge.
The serving governors and the former governors must each recognize their boundaries and cultivate mutual respect for one another. The serving state governors cannot afford to treat them with disrespect or seek to undermine their relevance in the scheme of things without being damaged to the party.
A closed-door session ensued, after which a major resolution is announced.
The powers of the NEC has been vested in the NWC for the period of 90 days.
This is the first time the NEC would concede power to the NWC, as the implication of this resolution begins to unfold within the next 3 months. Members voiced concerns and echoed support.
If someone has paid his dues, I believe that the time is also right for another term for that person.
Please, let our members, I'm not asking for favors for our members, but let our members have a fair shake in the parliament.
The National Executive Committee deems as fundamental the need to resolve all inherent rancors, especially in its determination to reposition the party ahead of the upcoming elections. The president has given the crucial advice for unity. It is hoped that the party will progress along those lines. Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And after the National Executive Council of the APC, the National Publicity Secretary, Mr. Felix Moka, said the party has approved the nomination and expression of interest fees for the various positions, with the presidential form selling at 100 million naira. Our correspondent, Dele Omoyeni, reports.
The All Progressives Congress, during its National Executive Council meeting, ratified the various dates and fees for the party's primaries to decide the candidates for various positions for the 2023 general elections.
Basically, we want to congratulate
the party approved free nomination forms for women and persons with disability, while persons under the age of 40 will get a 50% discount on purchase of nomination forms. The party also gives the date of its primary elections.
We will have our primaries for governorship on Wednesday, 18th of May 2022, and for the Senate, that has been scheduled to hold on Tuesday, 24th of May 2022.
There are insinuations in some quarters that the party may adopt the indirect mode for its primaries. However, the NWC is yet to issue an official statement in that regard. Nevertheless, the understanding within the rank and file of the party is that the president is more disposed to a consensus arrangement, which some aspirants are kicking against. This leaves the party with only the direct or indirect mode. However, the state of insecurity in the country poses a threat to the conduct of direct primaries.
What we have done principally is again to allow states to decide what they want. Some states can say they want direct, some can say they want indirect, whichever one. But we have said clearly that all those things will be sorted out by working committee. The National Working Committee will sort out and give back to us.
Particularly the decisions to waive certain categories of fees for women and persons living with disabilities, and also to even offer substantial reduction in fees or nomination fees for our youth.
The party will begin to sell its nomination forms on Saturday, April 23rd, 2022, and will commence primaries from May 18 with the governorship seats. Delia Moyeni, Channels Television News.
More politics now. Governor Udom Emmanuel of Akwa Ibom State is the latest in the list of aspirants seeking support from the leadership of the People's Democratic Party for his presidential ambition. The governor, who addressed the party's National Working Committee at the National Secretariat in Abuja, maintains he has a solution to Nigeria's economic problems. He is one of 17 presidential aspirants in the race for the party's presidential ticket in 2023.
Governor Udom Emmanuel is one of the 47 PDP governors in the race for the party's presidential ticket. Like several other aspirants, the governor is meeting the party's National Working Committee to seek their support to fly the PDP presidential flag in 2023. Accompanied by a large entourage of former principal officers of the PDP and some federal lawmakers, the governor says it's payback time for the sacrifices he made for the party.
If I've done so much for the party, it's not too much for the party to stand by me to rescue Nigeria. you need a product that when you put in the market, even if people might not so much like the party, but they will like your product. And on that product side, let people say whatever they want to say about PDP. They will like me, sir.
The presidential aspirant also presents his credentials to the National Working Committee, insisting that he is a sellable candidate for the party and has the solution to Nigeria's economic problems.
I'm standing as one of those that have solution to our economic issues. The world had moved to creating money, creating wealth, and only very few of us can do that today.
In his remarks, the national chairman of the party reassures the aspirant of the party's determination for credible primaries.
I want to assure you that we are committed to running the most transparent and fair primaries.
The PDP chairman also took a swipe at the ruling All Progressives Congress, challenging its leadership to conduct credible primaries for its aspirants.
The other party is a fragmented alliance. Very soon it will disappear from the surface of the Nigerian political landscape. We challenge them to have a presidential conference openly as we are going to have.
The PDP is hoping to conduct its presidential primaries on the 28th and 29th of next month, an exercise many say will determine the party's outing in the 2023 general elections.
Bad leadership has been the bane of Nigeria's political and economic experience, but that can only change if Nigerians begin to demand accountability in leadership. A new breed of politicians, known as the Big Tent, today held a conversation as part of their Rescue Nigeria project. The meeting held at the midpoint of Nigeria, that is, the Katampe Hills in Abuja, which stands at 600 meters above sea level. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, was there.
The conversation about the future of Nigeria takes a different turn as the so-called third force of Nigeria's politics takes to the Katampe Hills, the location of the very midpoint of Nigeria, 600 meters above sea level, to discuss the plans for the 2023 elections.
First, the issue of security, because without it you can't really do anything.
The third force is led by former presidential aspirant Professor Patu Tomi, who is also the chair of what is known as the Big Tent, a coalition of registered political parties, religious and labor groups. This conversation has been necessitated by the rising number of presidential hopefuls declaring their intention to run for the office of the president. The group believes Nigerians must choose differently this time.
Citizens have to take this decision at the moment. Are we going to flow with the normal politics of people who have stolen money from our resources, coming to declare and spreading money all over? We as elite, we have got to have an elite consensus. We have got to agree among ourselves where exactly do we want this country to be.
Insecurity, a dwindling economy, poor governance, infrastructure deficit, and epileptic power supply are some of the issues identified at the conversation as bedeviling the country. Professor Patu Tomi says he's open to run for president if chosen by the Big Tent. However, the onus, he says, lies on the Nigerian people to demand better, stressing the need for Nigerians to pick a leader who will double the country's GDP.
As many as possible that want to declare should declare. What is important is that any of them that declares has to tell us how we can double GDP in Nigeria in the next 5 to 7 years. All of you put it to them. Let them tell you. If they cannot tell you, not glittering generalities, exactly what they will do and how they will circumnavigate any problems that arise, because problems will always arise, then they are not fit to run.
Do we have a Nigerian electorate that will prioritize suitability over eligibility? In a country with so much poverty, do we have an electorate that will focus on politics of ideas and not politics of big men? Professor Patu Tomi and his friends believe that this is possible and have converged at this point, the very center of Nigeria, to propagate that message. From the Katampe Hills in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, gets tributes galore in Lagos for Professor Grace Alele Williams, the first Nigerian woman to receive a doctorate degree and first female vice chancellor. That's in a moment. Do join us again. Welcome back. If it has joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. APC fixes 100 million naira for purchase of presidential forms at its 11th NEC meeting in Abuja. There are also indications the party may adopt indirect primary to pick candidates. Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Oladayo Amao pledges thorough investigation into the cause of the Super Mushak trainer aircraft crash that killed 2 pilots. Lagos State officials meet President school management parents over the scandal involving students who engaged in immoral acts during a trip to Dubai. And the deadline for a second Russian ultimatum demanding the surrender of Ukrainian forces in Mariupol passes, with troops similarly ignoring the demands. I will make one more stop over with politics. The National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Felix Moka, has been weighing in on the speculation of indirect primaries for the presidential aspirants of the party. He spoke on our political program, Politics Today, on the matter, saying it was not discussed at the NEC.
We didn't make a decision about that. I've heard a few reports that suggested that a particular mode of primaries was decided today. That's not the case. But in the coming days, the NWC, especially given its new authority with the powers you referred to that were ceded by the NEC to it, will be grappling with that question and will make that decision in the coming days. The president simply was laying out some broad principles that should govern the process. Issues of fairness, of inclusion, of just letting people who mean well and who mean business to be afforded the fullest of opportunity to vie for the various offices. But I don't think the president did specify, and the president will do that.
To security now. After about 2 weeks of the alleged murder of gospel singer Mrs. Osinachi Nwachukwu, the Inspector General of Police Usman Alkali Baba has assured Nigerians that justice will be served over her death. The police boss said this as he received the Minister of Women Affairs, Mrs. Pauline Talon, who led family members of the gospel singer on a visit to his office in Abuja.
Is going to investigate this issue with all alacrity and sincerity of purpose. Meanwhile, in all cases of this nature, there is an expert opinion which is required, and it is because of this that the police have approached the National Hospital, where the corpse is deposited, to conduct a postmortem examination to get an expert opinion as to the cause of death. As soon as this opinion is received at our end, we will finish our investigation and charge the suspect to court for possible prosecution.
A deadly attack was averted today in the Sabongeri area of Zamfara State after Nigerian troops of Operation Hadinkai foiled a planned attack by bandits. A resident in Bakura town told Channels Television the heavily armed bandits in large numbers launched an attack on the community and started shooting sporadically to scare residents. They also rustled a large number of cattle. But the troops deployed at Bakura town responded swiftly and engaged the bandits in fierce gun battle that lasted about 2 hours. Following the superior firepower of the troops, several bandits were killed, while others abandoned the rustled cattle and fled into the forest with various degrees of gunshot wounds. Now in Sabongeri area of Zamfara State, troops of Haninkai also foiled another attack launched by some heavily armed bandits. Well, a resident did say, that the troops responded swiftly to the gun battle that lasted about 2 hours. Meanwhile, 24 hours after the crash of the Nigerian Air Force Super Mushak trainer aircraft, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Oladayo Amao, is in Kaduna on a fact-finding mission, assuring that the Nigerian Air Force will ensure thorough investigation into the incident that left 2 pilots dead. The Air Force Chief commiserates with families, friends and colleagues of the 2 pilots, Flight Lieutenant Abubakar Muhammad Al-Khali and Flight Lieutenant Elijah Haruno Karatu, who lost their lives in the tragic incident. Air Marshal Amao has constituted an accident investigation board upon receiving the sad news of the crash to determine the immediate and remote causes of the crash. Channel Television visited the family of one of the pilots in Kaduna.
Still grieving and in shock over the news of the death of Lieutenant Abubakar Al-Khali, friends and relatives of the deceased gather at the family house to offer prayers for the repose of his soul. An uncle of the late pilot, Sule Dauda, describes him as an extremely reliable and religious person who they hoped would have made a good career in the Nigerian Air Force.
Very smart, extremely intelligent, one of the best pilots in his set, if not the best, really, in his NDA set. And he was very obedient, but if there is any appeal that one has to make, Al-Khali has gone. Other Al-Khalis need to be preserved. That's the only appeal that I will make to the government. Whatever it takes to preserve these people, there is that need to do everything to preserve them.
Lieutenant Abubakar Al-Khali is one of the pilots who died on Tuesday while undergoing a training with a Super Mushak training aircraft belonging to the 401 Flying Training School of the Nigerian Air Force in Kaduna State before it crashed inside the Air Force based in Kaduna. Lieutenant Al-Khali and his colleague were both graduates of the Nigerian Defense Academy, Nigeria's prestigious military training institution for officers. Meanwhile, the late Al-Khali has been buried in Kaduna in line with Islamic injunction.
The Nigerian Navy maintains it is making progress in containing the forays of economic saboteurs such as oil thieves and pipeline vandals, judged by the number of arrests and seizures made in recent times. The Chief Staff Officer, Western Naval Command, Rear Admiral Hamza Kumaje, confirmed this while playing host to the Chief of Atlantic French Naval Command, who was on a courtesy visit to Lagos as part of activities to strengthen the bilateral relationship that exists between them.
Officers and men of the Western Naval Command of the Nigerian Navy play host to the Chief of the Atlantic French Naval Forces. It's an auspicious occasion to discuss issues which should strengthen the existing bilateral relationship between both parties. The Atlantic French Naval Chief highlights the significance of the visit.
The very strong commitment of Nigerian authorities and Nigerian Navy to tackle with piracy, and we can observe today the huge decrease of this threat during the last year, thanks to all this effort and the huge contribution, the major contribution of your country and your Navy to tackle this issue.
Responding, the Chief Staff Officer of the Western Naval Command, who represents the flag officer commanding the Western Naval Command, acknowledges the challenges of keeping the maritime space safe and applauds the existing cooperation between the two navies.
So with their cooperation, recently Nigeria was removed from the list of piracy-prone countries by the International Maritime Organization. So we're very grateful for that cooperation. We couldn't have achieved that without your support.
He also speaks on the strides made so far in tackling oil theft in the country.
Nigerian Navy has deployed over 26 vessels. When I say vessels, I mean different categories of vessels to the south-south, Niger Delta now. And there is this operation, Dr. Barao, is ongoing. And I'm sure some of you have heard or seen some of the arrests that were made. That is just the beginning.
To effectively navigate the complexities of the maritime domain, such as the vast Gulf of Guinea, requires appropriate capacity and the necessary cooperation. A recent bilateral relations such as this between the French and the Nigerian navies is a welcome development. Chris Lems, Channels Television News.
The Lagos State Government today convened a meeting with all the parties in the Christian School Immoral Act at the State Ministry of Education Quality Assurance Conference Hall. The meeting, which lasted about 6 hours, had in attendance some officials of the Education Quality Assurance and that of the Directorate of Public Prosecution, police officers, teachers, representatives of the school management, as well as parents of the affected students. However, none of the students involved in the scandal was present at the meeting. A confirmed source told Channels Television that all parties gave account of their level of involvement in the incident, but authorities of the agency could not be reached for comments on the outcome of the meeting. The Lagos State Police Public Relations Officer, Benjamin Hundeyin, told Channels Television that owing to the late conclusion of the meeting, another invitation has been issued to all parties concerned to appear at the State Criminal Investigation and Intelligence Department on Thursday. Mr. Hundeyin adds that the command will ensure that justice is served. Still ahead on the news at 10. Federal government to commence online performance assessment for civil servants from next year in a bid to improve performance in the civil service and eliminate ghost workers syndrome. Do join us again. Welcome back. Let's head on to our Abuja studio where Terry Kumi is standing by with more on the news at 10. Hi, Terry. Apologies, didn't forget your name. Just, you know how special you are.
I don't think you could ever forget that, Amarachi. Nice to see you. As part of the plan to reform the civil service system, the federal government is adopting a new model that will allow it to eliminate inefficiency and red tapeism. Beginning from 2023, the annual performance assessment of all public servants will be done online, and this will be mandatory. The Director General of the Bureau of Public Service Reform, Dr. Dasuki Arabi, disclosed this today in Abuja.
E-government master plan has been approved. It is already in implementation stage by different sectors of the public service. Now, the blockchain technology has been initially captured in the e-government master plan. What we are trying to do is to sensitize Nigerians, to sensitize the public servants, and we come up with a roadmap for implementation of the blockchain technology. Now, the ledger technology, the blockchain technology, they are one and the same thing. What we are happy with is adopting this technology will give us the privilege to improve on transparency, accountability, then working together between ministries, departments, and agencies of government. And most importantly, it will break bureaucracy and give public servants and citizens the opportunity to participate in governance and know what we are doing at the touch of a button.
An efficient electric power supply industry that will guarantee Nigerians adequate, reliable and affordable electricity is what everyone in the country is yearning for. The chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Mr. Sanusi Garba, says this is possible and that the federal government is progressively pursuing the project. He was speaking today in Abuja during an interaction with journalists. And according to him, one of the policy interventions of the federal government is a national mass metering program where about 4 million meters are set to be rolled out soon. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Mohammed, today swore in new judges of the Federal High Court, urging them to be ready to hear more cases, especially during the 2023 general elections. He also wants the judges to stay away from unmerited wealth to avoid running foul of the law. The National Examination Council, NECO, has postponed the National Common Entrance Examination, which was scheduled for May 29. According to the Examination Board, the turnout of applicants recorded so far is lower than expected, prompting the boards to shift the examination dates to June 5. It is expected that the new date will give students ample time to complete the registration process and sit for the examination. Last year, the examination was postponed due to the coronavirus. The Adewumi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation has been opened in Lagos. It is an entity which aims to give information about Parkinson's disease and provide support for people living with the condition. Parkinson's disease is a progressive nervous system disorder which affects movement. Our correspondent Mary Alale Yusuf reports.
Activities to dedicate the Adewumi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation begin with praises. The foundation is opening in memory of Dr. Adewumi Desalu, diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, who fought it for about 10 years until his death in 2019.
After university, my dad went on to have an amazing career, as I alluded to, with companies like Gulf Oil, Westinghouse, General Electric, and eventually his own company, Botad. He was an inventor, he had patents, his work is found in many areas of society.
According to a report of the World Health Organization published in 1997, the prevalence of Parkinson's is 165 in 100,000 people. But doctors say it is still grossly underreported in Africa.
I make music to your name.
Mrs. Omotola Thomas, founder of Parkinson's Africa, was diagnosed with the disease in 2016 at the age of 35. Watching her and hearing her story gives one an idea of the degenerative nature of the disease.
My journey started almost 6 years earlier in 2019 with a slight twitch in the forefinger on this hand. And over time, that twitch escalated into a full-blown tremor, and then additional symptoms, started to show up. I had muscle rigidity, stiffness, weakness, pain, fatigue, apathy, depression, anxiety. It's a long list. Parkinson's disease has well over 30 symptoms. In addition to the shame and the stigma that surrounds Parkinson's disease, particularly in areas like Africa, many Africans do not have access to the education, the support, and healthcare resources that they need to live well with Parkinson's disease.
Psalm 92, what does it say?
It is for such people that the Adewumi Desalu Foundation comes as an answer. The foundation is equipped with world-class facilities to improve the lives of those with Parkinson's disease and has an ambitious list of targets in view.
The foundation will provide information and awareness about the disease. We are providing a boxing arena. We have a writing room over there where we're teaching people to write, because one of the things that Parkinson's takes away from you is writing.
A group led by Right Reverend Oluronti Odubogun, Emeritus Bishop of Ife, and Dr. Adekunle Desalu proceeds to cut the tape and unveil the plaque.
That is the glory of God and the service of mankind.
Another thing the foundation is equipped with is a low-impact gymnasium for patients to increase levels of a chemical called dopamine, which can improve motion, mood, and decision-making. The foundation also plans to collaborate with other bodies to make medication available to patients in Nigeria and fund research. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
And that's all from the nation's capital. Business News is next with Ann Waudo.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Terry. Hello and welcome to Business News. Let's begin with saying from the National Bureau of Statistics, talking about 13 million domestic passengers traveling through Nigerian airports in the year 2021. According to the NBS report, that figure represents a 43.41% growth, coming up from about 9 million passengers recorded in 2020. Also, the total number of arrivals in 2021 stood at 6.5 million, which was higher compared to about 4.9 million recorded in 2020, while the total departure stood at about 6.5 million. The report further says that 2.2 million international passengers passed through Nigerian airports in the year 2021, a rise of 57.61% when compared to 1.4 million passengers in 2020. The Association of Nigeria Licensed Customs Agents have been reacting to the introduction of 15% National Automobile Commission levy imposed on the used and new vehicles by the Nigeria Customs Service. The acting national president of the association, Dr. Kayode Farito, who was on our Business Morning show, says that if the ongoing talks with government does not yield fruit, then they will resort to strike. The Nigerian Exchange Limited has partnered with the UN Sustainable Stock Exchanges Initiative, International Finance Corporation, and Carbon Disclosure Project to help adopt best practices on climate disclosure by quoted companies. In line with this, companies in Nigeria will be trained on climate disclosure as part of the NGX Regulation Climate Awareness Initiative. The NGX says that climate policy advances have significant implications for business and investment community. It also adds that companies that do not effectively navigate the climate transition and provide adequate disclosure may experience increased friction in accessing long-term sustainable capital. And talking about the equities market, we have there now sustained its bullish momentum today across all milestones for equities. Will Ebong has the figures for us.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Drum roll as the NGX All Share Index clinched a 1.25% gain today and crossed the 48,000 level. We got the bull bellow nonetheless, but still a major milestone for equities this year. Let's dig into the numbers and know the stocks that made moves today. And we've got some big names: Airtel Africa, Seplat Energy, and Dangote Cement. Airtel and Seplat added about 59 and 45 naira each to their share prices and contributing to the big win for equities. But it was a jaw-dropping drop for the banking sector. The index stumbled further by 2.45% in today's trading session. No thanks to Zenith Bank and GTCO losing 3.42 and 3.27% each. Now, Okomu Oil, Guinness, and other giants in the consumer goods made some monster moves, leading to the 2.06% positive close for that counter, while Seplat carried the green flag for the oil and gas index. However, it was a sea of red on the activity chart. Markets have had a rally mode all day, with 320 billion naira added to its value today. What comes next for investors? We'll keep tracking. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Will Ibong. It's back to you.
Thanks a lot, Will. Now let's find out the closing numbers for other markets around the world. And that's Business News for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Amarachi.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Coming up on the news at 10, the deadline for a second Russian ultimatum demanding the surrender of Ukrainian forces in Mariupol passes, with troops seemingly ignoring the demands. Join us again. Welcome back. Russia today test-launched its Samad intercontinental ballistic missile, a new addition to its nuclear arsenal, which the President, Vladimir Putin, says would give Moscow's enemies something to think about. It comes hours after an ultimatum for Ukrainian soldiers to leave the city of Mariupol or prepare to die passed. But the soldiers defied the ultimatum, choosing to hold on. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The deadline of a second Russian ultimatum demanding the surrender of Ukrainian forces in Mariupol has passed with no sign that troops have complied. The port city in the southeast of Ukraine has been under siege for nearly 8 weeks, and residents are living without regular water, electricity and gas supplies. People could also be seen at a makeshift market buying food and other necessities, as well as charging their mobile phones from a generator. The remaining Ukrainian soldiers in the city, reportedly accompanied by 1,000 civilians, have taken shelter in the city's massive Azovstal steel plant. It comes as the United Nations Refugee Agency says more than 5 million people have fled the country since the war started. Meanwhile, Berlin has chosen not to make public all the weapons it has sent to support Ukraine.
Das bedeutet für uns in Deutschland, weil wir aus eigenen Beständen.
Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock said that Germany would help Kyiv maintain more advanced weapon systems it might buy and train soldiers to use them.
Das Leid der Ukraine.
It comes after the country's leader, Olaf Scholz, has been criticized regularly for not showing more leadership in supporting Ukraine. Meanwhile, there are reports that Russian players will not be allowed to compete at the Wimbledon tennis tournament in the UK this year due to Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. According to a report in sports industry news site Spotico, players like world number 2 Daniil Medvedev wouldn't be allowed to start at the competition. Earlier this month, the All England Lawn Tennis Club said it was in talks with the British government on the participation of players from Russia and Belarus. Rescue teams in South Africa continue to search for bodies washed away in KwaZulu-Natal province after horrific floods devastated the area and killed at least 448 people. In this settlement, 17 kilometres from Durban, officers were seen digging through rubble and mud searching for 2 missing people. Thousands of soldiers have been deployed to assist with rescue missions and transporting aid. Torrential rain last week triggered floods and mudslides, leaving thousands homeless and knocking out power and water services. Yemen's new presidential body, the Presidential Leadership Council, has been sworn in a rare session of the country's exiled parliament in the southern port city of Aden. The swearing-in ceremony was attended by foreign ambassadors and the US and UN envoys to the war-torn country. The council, which was last elected in 2003, is headed by Rashad Al-Alimi, who took the oath alongside other council members in front of members of parliament. Peru's national police have announced they have seized more than 5 tons of drugs worth around $140 million during operations across the country.
En una entrada hacia un río de la carretera de penetración, puerta trasera, se encuentran unos sacos de.
Weapons and chemical supplies used to elaborate certain drugs were also found and confiscated. According to the authorities, during 2022, Peruvian police carried out 4,421 operations, during which they detained 959 people and dismantled 25 criminal organizations, seizing 16.9 tons of drugs. And the global streaming giant Netflix has reported losing subscribers for the first time in more than a decade and predicted more contraction in the second quarter. It's a rare miss for a company that has been a reliable growth engine for investors. The company's stock plunged 23% in aftermarket trading, erasing $30 billion in market value. Netflix lost 200,000 subscribers in its first quarter. Its decision in early March to suspend service in Russia after it invaded Ukraine resulted in the loss of 700,000 members alone. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. Time for sports news. Here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Marachi. We start off with boxing. World heavyweight champion Tyson Fury admits he will need his A game to beat Dillian Whyte ahead of the blockbuster bout with his British rival. The unbeaten Fury is widely expected to retain his WBC title in front of a post-war British record boxing crowd of 94,000 at Wembley Stadium. Mandatory challenger White has waited years for his world title shot and says he is ready to do whatever it takes to win. World #1 Novak Djokovic dug deep to overcome Laszlo Djere in the second round of the Serbia Open in Belgrade. The twin-time Grand Slam champion dropped the first set 2-6 to his Serbian compatriot before needing 2 tie breaks in the second and third sets to send Djere packing 2-6, 7-6, 7-6. Djokovic, who is chasing his third title at the ATP 250 event, faces yet another Serbian after Miomir Kekmanovic in the quarterfinal stage.
Game, set, match. Djokovic 2-1, 2-6, 7-6, 7-6. To set 1, 2-6, 7-6, 7-6.
Andy Murray will play at the Madrid Open next week after changing his mind about skipping the clay court season and accepting a tournament wildcard. Murray is a 2-time winner in the Spanish capital, including victory over Spanish great Rafa Nadal in 2015. The Scot, who lost to world #2 Daniel Medvedev in Miami last month, could also play in Rome. However, he is expected to focus on Wimbledon preparations rather than the French Open, which begins in May. In the English Premier League, Arsenal got their pursuit of a place in the top 4 back on track as they ended a run of 3 defeats with a crucial 4-2 victory over Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Elsewhere, Richarlison scored a stoppage-time goal against Leicester City to earn Everton a precious point in their bid to stave off relegation. Newcastle beat Crystal Palace to record a 6th consecutive win at St James's Park and move on to 40 points in the EPL. And Man City leapfrogged Liverpool back to the Premier League summit thanks to a devastating victory over Brighton. 3-0 it finished. In the Nigeria Professional Football League, 5 match day 24 games were played today. Katsina United defeated newly promoted Shooting Stars, while Lobi Stars beat Gombe United. Kwara United were held to a draw by Abia Warriors. Elsewhere, Niger Tornadoes beat Rangers in Minna, while New Boys Remo Stars hammered Dakada FC 4-1. And the Nigeria Wrestling Federation has confirmed that the maiden Governor Diri National Wrestling Championships will be staged in Yenagoa, the Bayelsa State capital, from April the 27th to May the 3rd. About 300 athletes and officials from 26 states, military and paramilitary clubs are expected to vie for honors at the indoor sports hall of the Samson Siasia Sports Stadium. The competition will also serve as qualifier for next month's African Wrestling Championships in Morocco. And that's sports news. I'm Ayotunde Balu.
Thanks, Ayotunde. And the main news again. The All Progressives Congress today fixed 100 million naira for purchase of presidential forms and 50 million naira for governorship candidates at its 11th NEC meeting in Abuja. The National Publicity Secretary of the party said the matter of indirect primaries was not discussed at the NEC meeting today. So today, Lagos State officials met Christian school management parents over the scandal involving students who engaged in a moral act during a trip to Dubai. That'll be all on the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night.